Right now, we're facing a man-made disaster of global scale, our greatest threat in thousands of years.
Well, the environment's future isn't looking too bright.
Well, the environment isn't making too much sense at the moment.
You just heard it there. We all need to do something to help change the environment, from our food, materials, and mainly how we treat the world as a huge landfill for toxic, plastic, and man-made waste. I set out to investigate how we can still save the environment, not just your standard way. I decided to look at an industry where you're least likely to think, I can save the world this way. This is the funeral industry, and I'm about to take you through a journey of past, present, and future. This is a coffin carol.
Back in the Victorian times, they were reusing the cemetery ground so often that it not only raised the level of the ground, but bodies were not decomposing quickly enough before the next one was going in, and they were getting all sorts of nasty bits. But that was generally, in urban areas, this is what was happening. Things were being buried, and even in the spacious cemeteries, and they still do. They dig down 9, 10, 11 feet, and they stack the coffins one on top of the other.
Derek from the London Casket Company spoke to me about how the funeral industry used to be like back in the 1980s.
The funeral profession hasn't really changed that much. The materials used have. The simple coffin back then would have been a chipboard coffin, which is a sort of a combination of various pieces of wood sort of glued together and made into places. It was the modern day version is MDF. And then you went through various types of wood. There's oak, mahogany, there was elm then, which is not used nowadays. Walnut was a little bit more select. And pretty much these woods are used today.
Now that we've visited what the industry was like in the past, let's bring you back to 2018. Derek explains what his company offers as part of their range.
Our American range is split up into woods and metals. We also do a small range of Italian coffins, and they're all wood, all solid wood. The Italian coffins, solid mahogany and oak and walnut. And our caskets, we have a cherry wood, we have a solid mahogany, and we have a solid oak. And then we have 3 or 4 models made from poplar. Now, poplar is a solid wood, but it's a faster growing wood, so it's more porous. And then the top of the range is solid bronze. We do a solid copper, and we do a solid bronze casket, sheet casket as well. And they're all individually lined with either a taffeta or crepe, or I think most of our caskets have a velvet interior, which sort of adds to the good feel, of the interior.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have the feel of the velvet is much better than crepe.
Now here is some interesting knowledge that I found out after visiting Manor Park Cemetery and speaking to Derek, who helps around with the cemetery grounds.
You're not allowed
Really?
in most cemeteries because it doesn't actually, it's not biodegradable. Wood would rot, so that'd be the best thing. But anything that generally steel caskets, lead, anything like that would normally not be used anymore.
I won't lie, the sound of velvet is very comforting. However, it doesn't seem very environmentally friendly. Rosie from the Natural Death Centre explained why maybe having a traditional coffin or casket is damaging to the environment.
We want to leave as light a footprint as possible. So if you're looking to get a regular coffin from the funeral directors, they will be lined with plastic. They will be multi-fibre board, so goodness knows what the origin of that board is, glued together with lots of formaldehydes, resins, varnished with a non-degradable varnish, no doubt, and that sort of thing going in the ground. It's not going to be as good as it could be, is it? So, and maybe, solid wood coffins, they're still importing them from rainforest timber from, across the other side of the world, which can't be good either.
So who is out there trying to make a difference and a positive change to the industry? I met up with Holly, a contemporary funeral director who is passionate about making a change to the industry.
So we, as much as possible, we source local. That's really important to us. And as much as possible, we use products that are sustainable for the environment. So things like washing up liquid e-cover and things like that. And it's quite difficult within the funeral industry to not use just something once. So obviously care of the body, that's quite difficult. But even just down to, so instead of using disposable aprons when we're looking after people, we've all got a really nice sort of wash down apron that we reuse and things like that. So and we work with, actually the Coffin company we work with is Coffins, and they're based in Sittingbourne, so it's not far from us.
So off I went to Sittingbourne to speak to Mark, who then explained to me how Coffins came about.
William, the owner of the company, he was asked to produce a bamboo coffin. He was making bamboo furniture at the time, back in like the mid-90s, and he was trying to sell it over here in London, but the company, like places like Selfridges, wanted to mark it up huge amounts and sell it as this like bespoke handmade furniture. And he was asked to make about 7 or 8 coffins, and for I think it was Hong Kong Embassy. And then they used a couple, but they didn't want the rest, so he brought them back over here. He thought, I might as well put them with the furniture in a container, bring them here. And there was a whole sort of a natural burial movement taking off. And a guy, Ken West, opened the first natural burial ground in 1993.
You would find that people attending a natural burial, the majority will just say, wow, this is so much nicer. Have you got a leaflet, please?
This was about 4 or 5 years later, but it was like people were going, well, we're looking for a product that can go in the ground, is going to be biodegradable, what have you, and that's really where it sort of came from, and that was kind of like the first step.
So natural burials and eco-friendly coffins sound the way forward. But what makes a coffin environmentally friendly? Mark?
The primary one is bamboo. Bamboo is like the quickest growing plant on the planet. It does absorb a lot of CO2, so we shouldn't really... but it does get cut down once a year, so it's a quick, as I say, it's a sustainable, easy, renewable product. They produce tons and tons and tons of it in China, where we get ours from. We do something called pandanus, which is a weed which grows quite prolifically in Indonesia, and that's woven into a coil which is then woven around to produce our pandanus coffin. The same with the banana leaf. Once after the banana's been harvested, they take the leaves, they dry them out, and they turn them into like a rope coil, and again that's woven into one of a couple of our products. And then there's European willow, grows in, ours come from Poland, basically grows in the sort of flat, marshy areas of Poland. Again, quite quick growing and very easy to establish, really. You can the willow falls on the ground and it can grow from that again. They have things called crowns, which can produce willow for 40 to 60 years, and it can be harvested every year. But yeah, it's a very fast-growing, easy, renewable product. And the same again with English willow, just like the Polish willow, very fast-growing. And then obviously there's cardboard, which is 70 to 80% recycled material. And then anything that's raw wood pulp going in there is got to be FSC accredited, the Forestry Stewardship Council, I believe it is.
So what's next in the future? What does an eco-friendly funeral industry look like?
Our company as a whole, we do all kinds of things that we're trying to sort of look towards a greener future. I mean, just with the products and things, we feel that our products are where things are going with funerals and coffins. More sustainability in the materials, more renewable materials, more environmentally friendly materials. In terms, as I was talking about, in terms of cremation and burial, things that are going to be, then they're hopefully not going to harm the environment as much once they are disposed of in the manner that they're intended for. As I say, the products that we create, the materials, they're all things that are easily replaceable and can be harvested very often. So you're not expanding on any lands that are used to grow these materials either.
A lot of people are unaware that they can make their own coffin, and that you don't have to have a coffin or a casket for a burial, that you can just be wrapped in a shroud, and that shroud doesn't have to be a bought shroud. It can be something that you've made, and in the same way as a lot of people who bury their pets, they wrap them in their favourite blanket, you can do a similar thing for that as well. So yeah.